So I think we should talk about Trisha. In this, I might come off as I'm on Trisha's side. I want to make it very clear I am not. They need to be held accountable for their actions. I just have someone with similar diagnoses in my life as Trisha. They have schizophrenia and bipolar disorder, and I will be comparing some of Trisha's actions to them. I will call them Chloe. Also be aware that they have other comorbidities, but I don't want to list their medical health beyond being as vague as possible. That's also why I gave them a fake name. So I might come off biased because of this, but I also feel my experiences could offer some insight into Trisha's actions. I'm not a doctor and I can't diagnose anyone. And everything I state is from the viewpoint of having somebody with profound mental illness in my life. And of course, this is all just my opinion. First off, I've seen a lot of people saying Trisha's not mentally ill. They're just lying. This misses the point that compulsive lying like Trisha does is a side effect to many mental illnesses. To me, even if Trisha doesn't have the diagnoses they have claimed publicly, it's very clear they're mentally unwell. I understand some people pretend to have mental illnesses for clout, but we can also understand that that's a sign of being mentally unwell in itself. And we should try to understand it, in my opinion. If you're of the mindset that you have to debunk the fact that someone's mentally ill to hold them accountable, I want you to ask yourself, why do you feel that way? Because mental illness does not shield you from accountability. It might make the accountability look different, but it does not stop it from happening. Trisha has had a hard home life. Even if we don't take their word for it, we can see it by the fact that their parents split up and their mom brought men in and out of their lives, making Trisha retreat into fantasy worlds and often would state their imagination as fact. This often is a sign of trauma in children. This is something I had to deal with a lot myself. I retreated into TV shows, acted like they were real because of trauma I had as a child. I had gone through trauma at a really young age, partly due to Chloe, family life, bullying, and loneliness. My mom got me therapy when that started happening. And because of it, my parents were able to fix a lot of the outside reasons that were causing me to do this. But that's the thing, even if Trisha got therapy at that age, when they started doing this, it would still be up to the adults in their lives to fix the things, because it's oftentimes external factors at that age. And punishing kids who lie and make up imaginations as facts oftentimes leads to them retreating more into their imagination. Trisha's saying they adopt personality traits and they don't have a personality of their own. This is a sign of profound mental illness, if it is true. And I feel like it's probably true, just based on the fact that they flip-flop so much on their past. With some mental illnesses, they adopt stories that can feel real, and those stories can be just as traumatizing. Sometimes, also, mentally ill people will have delusions that paint their memories, as well as change and warp what truly happened. Mentally ill people are more likely to be victimized, partly due to the fact that their mental illness will make it hard for the truth to actually be revealed, and predators use that to their advantage. The sad truth is, it's most likely that Trisha has been victimized in their lives. But we have to understand is, it might not be by their teacher, but it might be someone else. And Trisha could feel in their memories that it was their teacher, and that can be extremely traumatic. And we shouldn't be invalidating that trauma. I had to come to this realization with Chloe. They have stated an ex victimized them, but will change who did it, and the severity of the trauma will change. And I had the realization that it didn't matter if the story was real or not, because to them that trauma was real. To them, they're still going to have that trauma. We oftentimes don't realize that the delusions people who are mentally ill had prior to meds can still exist. And if they aren't completely off the wall, they can be hard to identify and deconstruct, even on meds. And mental illnesses can lead to memory issues. Your memory can be a big ball of wibbly wobbly memory stuff. And it can lead to mushing memories, adopting memories, forgetting memories, changing memories, and false memories. And that goes for quite a few mental illnesses. Now let's talk about Trisha flip-flopping on diagnoses and Dr. Drew saying they weren't schizophrenic. I honestly don't think it matters if they are schizophrenic or not. But I would like to point out that Dr. Drew is not Trisha's therapist. They are a TV doctor. I would also like to point out that it's not uncommon for mentally ill people to flip-flop on diagnoses that they claim. Even more so if those diagnoses are heavily stigmatized. Chloe would shop for therapists to be diagnosed with anything but schizophrenia. If a therapist mentioned it, they would leave and find someone else. Even now, they still don't like to be told their diagnosis, but they are on meds. When we get to the fact that Trisha claims being diagnosed 2 times in a year, and people have called into question how likely that is, a therapist might tell you they think you have something prior to testing, and that can feel like being diagnosed twice. But also, I would like to say Chloe was diagnosed multiple times in a year by different mental health professionals, so it's not impossible. I would also like to talk about Trisha's claims of being bullied, and then not claiming it. They said they were oversized, but you can't separate the two. If you don't like being overly sized, then you're being bullied. This is not to validate Trisha's experience, because I don't know if they happened. But this is to validate myself, someone who went through that form of bullying. But also to validate anyone else who has been through that form of bullying. I feel partly some people's coverage of this feels invalidating to the fact that oversization is bullying. I also, though, don't find it very far-fetched that Trisha was oversized. They went through a lot in early life, and that can be a way to find control, to dress a certain way, but it's up to adults to protect children from people doing that to them, whether those people are of their age or adults. I don't think it's okay to blame someone for the way they dress or act. We should blame the reaction. I would also like to talk about Trisha's claims of having to wear different shorts. You could both be bullied for that, do it because you want to do it, but also because the school told you to do it. There are cases where these things intersect. You can feel like it was your choice to wear those because they were more comfortable to wear bike shorts instead of Sophie shorts. You can feel that way, but also know that you were told to do that you weren't allowed to wear normal shorts. That's not to say that's what happened to Trisha, but I'm just pointing out that it's perfectly possible that both things can be true. Trisha also blames everything on Ethan, and I don't find this surprising. Hypocritical, yes, but not surprising. Oftentimes people who are mentally ill, they can understand when it comes to others that it's not as simple as one person or thing ruining their lives, but when it comes to themselves, they can't see it. Chloe, in my life, blames me for their mental break because they believe I'm a witch who cursed them and was a puppet master of their lives. But in reality, they have been having symptoms since I was really little. They have had visual hallucinations, and they would believe they saw ghosts and demons. And because of that, they got really into religion and spiritualism. They would adopt pieces of religion willy-nilly, making their own form of spiritualism. And because of this, they hid it really well, because people just thought they were really spiritual. It wasn't until they had a break with reality that they started having auditory hallucinations, and because of that, they were forced to get help. Oftentimes, mental illness is illogical, but that's a measure you can use to see how mentally ill someone is. How logical is this person acting? I would also like to say I don't think Ethan's hands are clean in this situation, but I can also see why he did what he did, because it can be hard to realize how to react to mentally ill people. If someone is that mentally ill, as Trisha claims, then you should take measures to check out what they say to be true, or at least bleep out names and locations. If I had Chloe on my channel, I would make sure that I bleeped out things they have said. Chloe has said names of people they didn't even know doing horrible things as part of their delusion, and that can be normal for someone with profound mental illness. Now let's talk about Moses and Trisha, saying they believe all victims. I get the anger at Trisha, I do. But also, if Moses is like the exes say and manipulates people, who's to say he's not using Trisha's mental illness to his advantage, making Trisha feel like he's the only one who can help them and who believes them? If that's the case, then it might be less productive to yell at Trisha because it enforces an us versus them mentality. I also think, in light of the allegations against Moses, it makes me really wonder about when Trisha hit them, because when abuse happens on an emotional level, a lot of times the person who lashes out physically is blamed. But that's just something to chew on, because I don't know what goes on in their private life. But I also know when someone is manipulative, they don't tend to stop in the next relationship. Now let's talk about accountability, because I want to give actual list of what I think we can do to hold Trisha accountable. We can stop watching Trisha's content. Second, we can ask for them to apologize for doxing the teacher and their family. 3, we could ask for them not to release any names or locations when talking about things in the future, unless they have permission or that person is confirmed to have charges against them. 4, we can ask for them to step away from the internet and get the mental help they need. Ultimately, we don't have to invalidate their mental illness to hold them accountable. And we don't have to understand why they're illogical, because mental illness can be illogical. And just because I can say Trisha's mentally ill doesn't mean I think Trisha's a good person. Your actions are what makes you a good person or a bad person. In my opinion, Trisha has a tall hill to climb for them to become a good person. But I just don't think we should invalidate that people are mentally ill just because we don't like them. And if you want me to go through one of Trisha's videos and talk about what I dislike about Trisha, I would be happy to do that. Just tell me what video you would like, and I will do that. I would also like to state that with Mysterious's videos being taken down, that was really messed up of Trisha to do. But I can also see it from the perspective, if you were as mentally ill as Trisha claims, watching those videos can be extremely triggering because they point out delusions. And from what I know of Chloe, pointing out delusions, not in a place with a therapist, can be extremely harmful and cause them a lot more pain and suffering. I honestly think Trisha needs to take time off the internet.